Hello my friends, subscribe to your YouTube channel Safety in Morocco and activate the bell to receive the latest news from the channel. The document explores the essential principles of working safely at height. It emphasizes that safety is not just about using equipment like harnesses, but about a complete system based on planning, prevention, and foresight. Key points include definition of risk. Work at height starts at 1.8 meters, not just on skyscrapers. Philosophy. Safety begins on the ground. Design work to avoid falls rather than reacting to them. Hierarchy of protection. First eliminate the need to work at height, then use collective protection, for example, guardrails, and finally individual protection, for example, harnesses, as the last resort. Follow rest systems. A harness is only effective as part of a complete system. Harness, lanyard, energy absorber, anchor. Fault clearance. Precise calculations are vital to ensure protection works properly. Takeaways. Plan first, prioritize collective safety, know your tools, and remember that safety is a system. The core message: true professionalism lies in anticipating risks so problems never occur.
You ever look up at a skyscraper or a massive bridge and just get that little feeling in the pit of your stomach? That's gravity, right? It's a primal fear we all have. But for the people actually working up there, it's not about being fearless. It's about a professional playbook, a system designed to beat gravity every single day. So let's pull back the curtain on that hidden system. I mean, it's a good question, isn't it? When they're walking on beams hundreds of feet in the air, what's the difference between a normal Tuesday and a total catastrophe? Well, the answer is way more interesting than you'd think. It's not just a rope, it's a whole philosophy, and we're gonna dive right in. You see a picture like this, and you think, wow, that takes guts. And it does. But what you're really seeing is the final step of a long, incredibly detailed process. For this explainer, we actually got our hands on a professional safety standard, the real deal. This thing is the blueprint that turns one of the most dangerous jobs in the world into a manageable, calculated task.
Okay, so where do you even start when you're facing a force like gravity? Well, before you can build any kind of system to protect people, you first have to agree on what the actual problem is. You've got to define it with zero ambiguity.
And boom, here it is. This is the official definition, straight out of the manual. So work at height isn't just, a feeling of being up high. It's a technical term with a very clear line in the sand. Notice those key words: unstable or deep surface, and a very specific measurable height. This kind of precision is the foundation for the entire safety system.
1.8 meters. That's a little less than 6 feet. Let that sink in for a second. We're not talking about the top of some crazy skyscraper here. This whole professional standard, all these rules, they kick in at a height that many of us could reach on a tall step ladder. The pros know the danger doesn't start way up there. The rulebook says it starts right here. All right, so we've defined the risk. Now we get to the really interesting part, the core philosophy. And this is kind of wild. The most important safety work doesn't happen on a beam 1,000 feet up. Nope. It happens right on the ground, in an office, way before anyone even thinks about putting on a harness.
And this is the big idea right here. It's a total shift in thinking. It's not about reacting to falls. It's about designing the work so a fall is practically impossible in the first place. It's all about foresight. Playing chess with the risks before you even step onto the board.
And check this out. This flowchart is that thinking in action. This is the actual decision tree they use. And the very first question right at the top is the most powerful one. It's not, how do we do this safely up there? It's, wait a second, do we even have to go up there at all? Can we eliminate the work at height? The safest way to do the job is to figure out how to do it on the ground. That simple question, that's what peak safety engineering looks like.
Okay, but what if you just can't avoid it? The work has to be done up high. What then? Well, the next step is to choose your protection. And this is so important to understand. Not all safety measures are created equal. There's a very strict hierarchy of what works best.
And this diagram from the standard lays it all out. Now, don't think of this like a menu where you can just pick what you want. It's more like a ladder. You have to start at the top with the absolute best solution. And you can only go down to the next step if the one above it is completely 100% impossible to do.
And that whole hierarchy, it's all built on one super simple but powerful principle. It is always better to protect the group than to rely on an individual. This is the key difference between what the pros call collective protection and individual protection.
And this side-by-side just says it all. On the left, you've got collective protection. Think of a simple guardrail. It protects everybody up there all at once. You don't have to think about it, it just works. It's passive. Now look at the right. That's individual protection. A harness. It protects exactly one person. And it only works if that one person does everything perfectly, every single time. It demands constant action and attention. That's why it is always the last resort.
So, you've gone down the ladder. You've tried to eliminate the risk. You can't install something like a guardrail. What's left? You're at the bottom rung, that final line of defense. But even here, when it's all down to one person and their gear, the most important word is still system.
Yeah, we call it a harness, but it's really a fall arrest system. And you got to think of it like a chain. It is only as strong as its weakest link. You've got 4 key parts: the harness itself, the lanyard connecting you, an energy absorber that acts like a shock absorber for your body in a fall, and a rock-solid anchor point. If just one of those things fails, the whole system fails. Period.
Even just putting the harness on correctly is a whole procedure. First you inspect it. Then you find that big metal D-ring on the back. That's your main connection point. You throw it on, kind of like a jacket. Then you buckle up the leg straps first, get your foundation solid, and then you adjust the torso straps. Every step is critical to make sure that if a fall happens, the force spreads out across your body safely instead of concentrating and causing an injury.
Okay, so the harness is on right, but that's only half the battle. Now you have to do the math. Seriously, this concept, fall clearance, is just straight up physics. It's the total amount of empty space you need below you so that if you fall, you don't hit anything. You literally have to add up the length of your lanyard, plus how far the shock absorber will stretch out, plus your own body height, and then add a critical safety margin on top of all that. If you get that calculation wrong, the entire system is useless.
All right, so we've been deep in the weeds with the technical stuff. Let's pull back a bit, zoom out, and look at the big picture. What are the big ideas here that apply to all of us, not just people working on skyscrapers? It really all boils down to 4 main takeaways. Number 1, plan first. The absolute safest work is the work you figure out how to avoid in the first place. 2, collective over individual. A simple guardrail is always better than a complicated harness. 3, know your tools. Every piece of equipment has a purpose and rules for using it right. And finally, number 4, safety is a system. It's not one thing, it's everything, from the initial plan to the final person, all working in perfect sync. So I'll leave you with this thought. This whole way of thinking, this systematic, planning first mindset, it's not just for people working 1,000 feet in the air. I mean, think about it. Where in your own life could you use this kind of foresight? Maybe before a big project, or even just a long road trip. It's this powerful idea that being a pro isn't about being good at solving problems. It's about being so good at planning that the problems never even get a chance to happen.